Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And this one is going to be fascinating. I think I'm super excited to dive into this today.
I am too.
So today we're going to be talking about cosmic habit force. And we're going to be focusing on Napoleon Hill's lecture on it and then also his book, Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
Because it's interesting. We talk a lot about habits. And, there's a lot of science around habits these days.
Right.
But this is kind of a different take on it, I think. And I think that's why I'm so fascinated by it is because, we kind of look at habits as these kind of things that, we form through repetition and things like that.
Right.
But this is kind of a bigger, almost a universal law that he's talking about as it relates to habit formation.
Right. And it's interesting how Harry D. Kills ties the very concept of habits into a much grander scheme, like a cosmic framework.
Yes.
Right. And he doesn't just say habits are important. He goes as far as to argue that the universe itself operates on a set of laws, and those laws apply to our habits as well.
Exactly. And one of the things that I find so fascinating about this is, I think a lot of people have this kind of mindset about habits is like, if I could just muster up enough willpower.
Yeah.
Then I could break this habit.
Yeah.
I wish I had the willpower to create this new habit.
Right.
But this kind of throws that out the window a little bit and says, no, there's a bigger force at play here.
Exactly. And think about it this way. Every time that you repeat a thought or an action, whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're essentially carving a groove into your mind, into your very being. And the cosmic habit force is what takes those grooves, those repeated patterns, and makes them permanent.
Yes.
It's like the universe is saying, okay, I see what you're doing. I see this consistency. I'm going to make this part of who you are now.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that the universe doesn't necessarily care if it's a good or bad habit.
Correct.
It's just looking at the repetition.
It's looking at the repetition and saying, oh, you're doing this repeatedly. Let's make that a solid part of your character.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So, I think we all have those habits that we're like, oh, man, I wish I could break that or whatever.
Yeah.
But then that just makes it seem even more daunting.
Yeah. And Hill doesn't try to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
He's very upfront in saying that it takes effort.
Yes.
It takes discipline. It takes willpower to overcome these things.
Especially if you've been doing it for a while.
Right.
And you've really carved that groove.
But what's important to remember is that we are not powerless.
Right.
We have the ability to direct this cosmic habit force to some degree.
Okay, that's a little bit reassuring because, like I said, that makes it seem like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm fighting against this massive universal force.
Right.
Okay, so then how do we then take this knowledge and start applying it to our lives?
Well, Hill gives a lot of examples, and he talks about different areas of life. One of the areas that he focuses on is physical health, for example.
Okay.
And he talks about this idea of cultivating a health consciousness through your thoughts and your actions. And it's not just about, thinking positive thoughts about health. It's about things like mindful eating.
Yeah.
It's about finding joy in your work. It's about supporting your body's natural processes.
So it's kind of like taking a holistic approach to
A very holistic approach.
your health, not just saying, oh, I need to go to the gym, 3 times a week or.
Right. And I think in our modern world, we tend to compartmentalize things. We tend to separate.
Yes.
But Hill is saying, no, all these things are connected. They're all influencing one another.
So basically, if you are constantly thinking about, being sick,
right,
or, being worried about your health,
yes,
are you basically feeding the cosmic habit force these negative thoughts about your health?
Yes. And Hill would argue that you're actually making it more likely for those patterns to show up in your life.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And he applies the same logic to finances. He talks about what he calls a prosperity consciousness.
Okay.
And this isn't just about, thinking positive thoughts and, becoming rich magically.
Right.
It's about consistently aligning your thoughts and your actions with the idea of abundance, with the idea of financial success.
Yeah. So it's not just about, I'm just going to think my way to wealth. It's about really creating those patterns and those habits.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
Yes.
It's about creating those mental and behavioral grooves that will attract opportunities and support sound financial decision-making.
That's really interesting. I like that because, it's kind of like...
It's a proactive approach.
Yes, it is.
It's not just hoping for things to happen. It's about creating the conditions that make them more likely to happen.
So I really like that. And so one of the other things that he talks about is this idea of fixations.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because that was kind of a new concept for me.
Yeah. Fixations are basically deeply ingrained habits or beliefs that have become so solidified by the cosmic habit force that they exert a powerful influence over our lives.
Okay.
And the tricky thing about fixations is that they can be both positive and negative.
Right.
It's not always a bad thing.
I mean, it's good if it's a good fixation.
It's good if it's good, it's bad if it's bad. But the problem is, when you have these negative fixations, they can be really difficult to break free from.
Right. Yeah. Because then it's not just a habit that you're trying to break. It's like this really ingrained.
It's a part of you.
Yeah.
It feels like a part of you.
Yeah. And so this whole idea of fixations,
yeah,
it makes me think about this, habit that I have that I've been trying to break for, years and years. And it's just like, I can't seem to get rid of it.
Yeah. And it's probably become a fixation at this point where it's so deeply ingrained that it feels almost impossible to change.
Yeah, so that's kind of the terrifying part, right? Is that we can have these fixations that we're not even aware of that are kind of controlling us.
Yeah, and that's why understanding these principles is so important, is because it helps us to become aware of these things.
Right.
And it gives us the tools to start to change them.
Okay, so then how do we start to break free from these negative fixations?
Well, Hill talks about the importance of our environment.
Okay.
And he believed that we are significantly influenced by the people that we surround ourselves with, the circumstances that we're in.
Right.
And so he says that it's important to be mindful of our environment and to create an environment that supports our growth.
That's interesting because, it makes me think about, that whole idea of, the crab bucket.
Right.
Where, you've got all these crabs in a bucket and one of them tries to climb out.
Right.
And the other crabs pull it back down.
Right.
And so it's kind of like that with our environment. If we're surrounded by people who are not supportive, who are, kind of bringing us down, then it's going to be that much harder to break free from these negative fixations.
It's like swimming upstream constantly.
Right.
And you're expending all this energy just to stay in the same place.
Right. So we need to be very mindful of our environment.
And very much so.
And the people that we surround ourselves with.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got the environment.
You're right.
But what about, like our own internal kind of drive and motivation?
Well, Hill was a huge advocate for what he called definiteness of purpose.
Okay.
And he believed that without a clear written goal, without something that we are consistently reminding ourselves of, we're likely to just drift.
Okay.
Our habits will be scattered.
So it's not enough to just have a general idea in our minds.
Not at all. He was very specific about this. He said, write it down, make it clear, make it definite.
Okay.
And repeat it daily.
So it's not just about, I want to, be healthier or,
It's not a vague notion.
Right. It's like, I want to work out 3 days a week.
Exactly.
I want to eat, this many vegetables.
Yeah. Yes. Be specific.
Yes.
And he believed that by writing down our goals, by repeating them daily, we impress them on our subconscious mind. And that's where the cosmic habit force really kicks into gear.
So it's not just about our conscious mind being aware of it. It's about really getting it down into that subconscious.
It's about programming the subconscious.
Yes.
And he uses this analogy of planting a seed.
Okay.
He says, the clearer the image of what you want, the stronger the seed that you're planting.
Okay, so the more specific.
The more specific, the better.
The stronger.
The stronger the seed.
Okay, I like that, and that makes a lot of sense.
And it makes sense when you think about the cosmic habit force. It's like you're giving it a blueprint.
Yes.
You're saying, this is what I want, build this for me.
I like that. Okay, so that we've got, the goal, we've got the environment.
Right.
But then, there's still that element of willpower.
Right.
And, self-discipline.
Absolutely. And Hill gives us a framework for cultivating willpower.
Okay, I like that.
He doesn't just say try harder.
Right, because that never works.
He gives us actual steps.
Okay, I like this. Give me the steps.
All right, step 1, form what he called mastermind alliances.
Okay.
And this is about surrounding yourself with supportive, like-minded individuals who can help to amplify your willpower.
So it's not about being a lone wolf and trying to do everything on your own.
No, it's about recognizing that we're social creatures and that our willpower can be bolstered by being part of a group.
I like that because I think a lot of times we try to do things on our own.
Right.
And then we get discouraged.
Yeah, you need that support system.
Yeah.
You need those people who are going to cheer you on.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so mastermind alliances, what's step 2?
Step 2 is create a detailed plan.
Okay.
So it's not enough to just have that fuzzy aspiration.
Right.
You need to break it down into specific actionable steps.
Okay.
Again, it's like giving that blueprint to the cosmic habit force.
I like that. Yeah, so it's moving from the dream.
From the dream.
To the action plan.
To the action plan.
Okay, what's number 3?
Number 3 is remove negative influences.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
How do we even begin to do that?
Well, he says you have to be very mindful of the things that you're allowing into your life.
Okay.
The media that you consume, the people that you spend time with,
right,
the physical spaces that you inhabit, all of these things can either feed your willpower or deplete it.
So it's kind of like weeding the garden.
Exactly.
Getting rid of those things that are going to...
that are choking the good plants.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so remove negative influences.
Number 4, focus on the future.
Okay.
Surround yourself with reminders of your goals.
Okay.
Whether it's vision boards, inspiring quotes, anything that keeps you motivated and moving forward.
I like that. So it's kind of like creating an
environment that supports your willpower.
Yes. Yeah.
And reminds you of what you're working towards.
So it's not just about, thinking about it every once in a while. It's about
constant reinforcement.
Yes. Yeah.
Visual reminders, things that are going to keep you on track.
Okay, what's number 5?
Number 5 is don't let your ego get in the way.
Oh.
And this is about finding that balance between confidence and humility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're always learning, we're always growing, and that there's always room for improvement.
So it's not about getting to a point where you think you've got it all figured out.
Right.
And you're,
because that can lead to complacency.
Right.
Which can undermine your willpower.
Yeah, it's about staying open to, new ideas and feedback and things like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that, these 5 steps are all about
creating the conditions for willpower to thrive.
Yes.
It's not just about trying harder.
Right.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
I like that a lot. Okay, so then how do we take all of this and start to actually, form these new habits and break free from the old ones?
Well, Hill talks about the 3 essentials of cosmic habit force.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Yeah. He says these are the ingredients that determine how effectively this force is going to solidify a habit.
Okay, what are they?
All right, number 1, plasticity.
Plasticity.
And this refers to our inherent ability to change, to adapt, to learn new behaviors.
Okay.
It's like the malleability of clay.
So we're not fixed.
We're not fixed.
Right.
We have the ability to change.
Good news.
That's the good news. Number 2, frequency of impression.
Okay.
This is all about repetition.
Okay.
The more frequently we repeat a thought or an action, the deeper that groove becomes in our mind.
So practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And then number 3, intensity of impression.
Intensity, okay.
And he uses this great analogy. He talks about trying to light a piece of paper on fire with a magnifying glass.
Okay.
And he says if the sunlight is diffused, it's not going to have much of an effect.
Right.
But if you can focus that sunlight intensely through the magnifying glass,
you can burn it?
You can create a burn.
Okay.
So intensity of impression is that focused concentration. It's about being fully present and engaged when you are repeating a habit.
So it's not just about going through the motions, it's about really being present and mindful.
Yes.
Okay.
And he gives us a really interesting anecdote to illustrate how these 3 elements can come together to create a habit.
Okay, I love anecdotes.
He tells the story of a woman who worked a swing shift at an electronics factory.
Okay.
And she had these 2 10-minute breaks, one at 6 p.m. and another one at 10:30 p.m.
Okay.
And so initially she would use those breaks to snack on things from her garden. Healthy snacks. But over time, something interesting happened. Her body became so accustomed to eating at those specific times that she started feeling hungry right before the breaks, even if she wasn't physically hungry.
It's out of habit.
Out of habit.
Interesting.
And then when her garden stopped producing, she started snacking on whatever was available.
Oh, no.
Even less healthy options.
So it started out as a good habit.
It started out healthy.
And then it turned into kind of a not so good habit.
It morphed into something else. And it got to the point where she was distracted. She was craving food even before the break times arrived.
So the habit itself was controlling her.
Exactly.
Not the other way around.
And so this illustrates how those 3 elements, the plasticity, the frequency, the intensity, can work even when it's creating an undesirable habit.
Right. So that's kind of scary.
It is.
Because it means that we're constantly programming ourselves.
We are.
Whether we realize it or not.
We are.
But the good news is that she eventually recognized the negative impact of this habit and took steps to break it.
She did.
So how did she do that?
Well, instead of snacking, she started reading.
Okay.
During those same break times.
So she just replaced it.
She replaced it with a different activity.
With a better habit.
With a better habit.
Okay, I like that.
And so the frequency of impression remained the same.
Okay.
But she shifted the intensity to the enjoyment and engagement of reading.
So she was still using those same principles.
Yes, but she was directing them towards a new goal.
Towards a new goal.
That's fantastic. And it shows that we can break free from even deeply ingrained habits if we understand these principles and apply them intentionally.
I like that. That's very encouraging because, like I said,
right.
It can feel very daunting when you think about all this.
It can.
But knowing that, we do have this power to change.
We do.
Is very reassuring.
We do. Welcome back.
The last part we were talking about that woman in the factory.
Right.
And her snacking habits.
Right.
And how it started out as a healthy habit.
Right.
And then morphed into...
It turned into something else.
Something else, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that really illustrates this idea of the cosmic habit force and how even small, seemingly insignificant actions can become really powerful if they're repeated enough.
And ingrained.
Right.
Yeah, and so, we were talking about how to kind of direct this force.
Right.
And make it work for us. So... one of the things that Hill talks about is self-discipline.
Right.
And willpower.
Right.
And I think that that's something that, a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
How do you develop self-discipline?
Right.
How do you strengthen your willpower?
Well, Hill believed that willpower is like a muscle.
Yeah.
That can be strengthened through practice.
Okay.
And through the right strategies.
So it's not just something that you're either born with or you're not.
No. He believed that it was something that you could develop over time.
So what are some of the strategies that he recommends?
Well, he outlines several steps. One of the first steps is to form what he calls mastermind alliances.
Okay.
And this is about surrounding yourself with supportive, like-minded individuals who share similar goals.
Okay.
And he believed that this could actually amplify your willpower.
So it's kind of like having a support group?
It is like having a support group.
Yeah.
It's like having people who are going to cheer you on and hold you accountable.
I like that.
And help you to stay motivated.
So it's not about, being a lone wolf and trying to do everything on your own.
Not at all.
It's about recognizing that we're social creatures.
Yeah.
And we need that support.
We need that support.
Okay, I like that. So mastermind alliances, that's step one.
That's step one. Step two is create a detailed plan.
Okay.
So it's not enough to just have that goal in your mind.
Right.
You need to break it down into specific, actionable steps.
So it's like moving from that, nebulous idea to a concrete plan.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he believed that this was important because it helps to focus the energy of the cosmic habit force.
It's like giving it a blueprint.
It's like giving it a roadmap to follow.
What's step three?
Step three is remove negative influences. I know, right?
Big one.
It's a big one, but it's so important because all those negative influences, all those things that are draining your energy, that are triggering negative thoughts, those are the things that are going to sabotage your efforts.
So it's about being very mindful.
Very mindful.
Of our environment, of the things that we're allowing into our lives.
Exactly. And it's not always easy, but it's essential.
Okay, so remove negative influences. What's step four?
Step four is focus on the future.
Okay.
And this is about surrounding yourself with reminders of your goals.
Okay.
Whether it's vision boards, inspiring quote, anything that's going to keep you motivated and moving forward.
I like that because it's kind of like creating that positive feedback loop.
Right.
Where you're constantly being reminded of what you're working towards.
You're keeping that goal at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah. And so it's not just about, thinking about it once in a while. It's about really...
constantly reinforcing it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, what's step five?
Step five is don't let your ego get in the way.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is about finding that balance between confidence and humility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're always learning. We're always growing.
So it's not about getting to a point where you're like, oh, I've got it all figured out.
Right.
And you're
Because that can lead to complacency.
Yes.
Which can really sabotage your efforts.
Okay, so it's about staying open to feedback and
new ideas.
And
recognizing that, you don't have all the answers.
You're always a student. Okay.
So those are the 5 steps. And basically what Hill is saying is that willpower isn't just about trying harder.
Right.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
Right.
It's about creating the conditions.
The right conditions.
Yeah. For willpower to thrive.
Okay, I like that.
And when you do that, you're essentially harnessing the power of the cosmic habit force.
Yes.
To work for you.
Okay, so then how do we then take all of this and start to apply it to specific areas of our lives?
Well, Hill gives us some really specific examples.
Okay.
And one of the areas that he talks about is finances.
Okay. Let's talk about money.
Everyone's favorite topic.
Yeah.
And he outlines a 7-step process.
7 steps.
For using the cosmic habit force to increase your income.
Okay, I'm listening.
All right, so step 1 is to get really clear about how much money you want to make.
Okay.
And he's very specific about this. He says it can't just be this vague desire for more. It has to be an actual number.
A specific figure.
The specific figure.
Okay.
Because he believed that having that specific target in mind helps to focus the energy of the cosmic habit force.
Okay.
So it's not just about, I want to make more money.
Right.
It's about, I want to make X amount of dollars.
By this date.
Okay. So get clear about that number, write it down.
I like that.
That's step 1. Step 2.
But step 2?
Is to visualize what it would feel like to achieve that goal.
Okay.
Really imagine yourself.
Living that reality.
What would it feel like?
I like that.
How would your life be different? What would you be able to do?
So it's about connecting to that emotion.
It's about connecting to the emotion.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to fuel your motivation.
Okay, so you've got the number.
Right.
You've got the feeling.
Right.
What's number 3?
Number 3 is come up with a plan.
Okay.
So this is where you start bridging the gap between visualization and action.
Okay.
Hill was very clear that you can't just get something for nothing.
Right.
You need a plan.
You need a strategy.
You need a strategy for how you're going to achieve this goal.
Right. So it's about moving from the what to the how.
Exactly.
Okay.
What's step 4?
What's step 4?
Step 4 is solidify your commitment.
Okay.
Write it down.
I like that.
Make it real.
Yeah.
And include your reasons why it's important to you.
So it's like a contract with yourself.
It's like a contract with yourself.
Okay.
And Hill believed that this helps to strengthen your resolve.
Okay.
And to increase the intensity of that impression.
Okay.
What's step 5?
Okay, what's step 5?
Step 5 is break it down into smaller steps.
Okay.
So take that big goal and break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. And he believed that this was important because it helps to prevent overwhelm.
Yes.
And it makes it easier to stay focused.
I like that.
What's step 6?
Okay, what's step 6?
Step 6 is take action.
Okay.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yes.
This is where you put all that planning and visualization into practice.
Right.
And Hill believed that action is the key.
Okay.
That unlocks the power of the cosmic habit force.
So it's not enough to just think about it or write it down?
Not at all.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
Okay.
And then step 7.
What's step 7?
Step 7 is keep your goal at the forefront of your mind.
Okay.
Read it aloud to yourself every day.
I like that.
Until you have it memorized.
So it's like creating a mental mantra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hill believed that this repetition, this constant reinforcement, helps to program your subconscious mind for success.
So these 7 steps are all about kind of setting yourself up.
Absolutely.
For financial abundance.
And using the cosmic habit force to your advantage.
I like that a lot.
So do you feel like you could apply these steps?
I do. I think so. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
Right.
But it's a lot about, really being intentional.
Being intentional.
And consistent.
Consistent.
And disciplined.
Yes.
Which I think is the hardest part.
But
I think that, these steps really lay out a clear framework.
They do.
For how to do that.
And they give you the tools that you need to succeed.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so then, we've talked about, using this for financial success.
Right.
But, obviously this principle applies to all areas of our lives.
It does.
So what about, some of the negative habits that we need to be aware of?
Well, Hill talks about several habits that he believes can be really detrimental.
Okay.
And one of them he calls poverty consciousness.
Poverty consciousness.
And this is basically that mindset of scarcity.
Okay.
That constant dwelling on lack, on what you don't have.
Okay.
And he believed that this can actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, because you're focusing on the lack.
You're attracting more lack into your life.
Okay.
Another habit that he talks about is what he calls imaginary illness.
Imaginary illness.
And this is about dwelling on fears and anxieties.
We talk about your health.
About your health.
Okay.
And he believed that this could actually make you more susceptible to illness.
So it's like you're creating
You're
it
manifesting it.
through your thoughts.
And then he also talks about just general laziness.
Laziness. Envy.
Greed.
All those fun things.
Vanity, cynicism, drifting through life without a purpose. All of these things he believed stem from a place of fear and negativity.
Okay.
And he said that these habits are essentially blocking the flow
of positive energy.
Of positive energy and abundance in your life.
Okay, so those are the ones we want to avoid.
Those are the ones we want to avoid.
What are some of the good habits that he recommends?
Well, he talks about a number of positive habits.
Okay.
But I think the most important one is definiteness of purpose.
Definiteness of purpose.
He believed that this is the foundation of all the other habits.
So it's like that overarching...
It's like your guiding star, your North Star.
Okay, I like that.
It's what gives your life direction and meaning.
So without that, you're kind of just...
You're just drifting.
Yeah.
You're just going through the motions.
Right.
But when you have that definiteness of purpose, it gives you a reason to get up in the morning.
I like that. Okay, so definiteness of purpose. What else?
He also talks about faith. And this isn't necessarily about religious faith.
Okay.
It's about believing in yourself.
Okay.
Believing in your abilities and believing that the universe is going to support you.
Okay, I like that. So it's kind of like that trust.
It is about trust.
Yeah.
Trusting in yourself, trusting in the process.
Okay, so definiteness of purpose, faith. What else?
He talks about personal initiative.
Personal initiative?
And this is about taking action.
Okay.
Without waiting for someone else to tell you what to do.
Okay.
It's about being proactive.
Yeah, I like that. So it's about being the driver.
Being the driver.
Of your own life.
Of your own life.
Not the passenger.
Not the passenger.
Okay. I like that personal initiative.
What else? Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
He believed that it was important to bring enthusiasm
to everything you do.
To everything you do.
I like that.
Because enthusiasm is contagious.
It is.
It's inspiring.
So it's not just about, kind of going through the motions. It's about really
bringing that energy to everything that you do.
I like that. Okay, so enthusiasm and then...
Self-discipline.
Self-discipline.
We've talked about that before.
Yes, we have.
It's so important.
The hardest one.
The hardest one, but it's essential for success.
Okay, and then...
And finally, going the extra mile.
Going the extra mile.
Exceeding expectations.
Okay.
Always striving to do your best.
So it's about setting the bar high.
Setting the bar high and then raising it even higher.
Yes, I like that. Okay, so those are all fantastic habits to cultivate.
They are.
But, we were talking earlier about, the 3 essentials of cosmic habit force.
Right.
And so how do those then relate to all of this?
Well, remember, the 3 essentials are plasticity.
Plasticity.
Frequency of impression.
Frequency.
And intensity of impression.
Intensity, okay.
So these are the 3 elements that determine how effectively this force is going to solidify a habit.
Right.
So when we're talking about cultivating these positive habits,
right,
we need to be mindful of these 3 elements.
Okay.
Plasticity is our ability to change.
Okay.
Frequency is about repetition.
Repetition.
And intensity is about focus.
Focused, okay.
So when we want to create a new habit,
yes,
we need to be open to change.
Okay.
We need to repeat the desired action consistently.
Okay.
And we need to bring our full attention
to the practice.
To the practice.
Okay, I like that.
And when we do that, we're essentially harnessing the power of the cosmic habit force to create the life that we want, to shape our reality.
So it's not just about hoping for the best.
No.
It's about taking action.
It's about being intentional.
And being consistent.
Consistent and being focused.
Focused.
Okay.
And that's what Hill's teachings are all about.
I like that a lot. So we've been talking about this cosmic habit force.
Right.
And, this idea that, we're constantly programming ourselves.
Yes.
And that our habits are really shaping our reality.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've been thinking about is, we've talked about all these positive habits that we can cultivate.
Right.
And the steps that we can take to kind of, direct this force to work in our favor.
Yes.
But what about the people who aren't aware of this concept?
That's a great question.
Are they just kind of, at the mercy
of their unconscious habits, of their programming, you know?
And I think Hill would say that even those who are not consciously aware of this concept are still being influenced by it.
Because it's a universal law.
It's a universal law.
Right.
It's like gravity.
Yes.
You know, we don't have to understand how it works.
Right.
To experience its effect.
To be impacted by it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think he would also argue that becoming conscious of it gives us the ability to use it more deliberately.
Right. So it's like, you know, if you're driving a car.
Right.
You know, you can drive a car without knowing how the engine works.
Right.
But if you understand how the engine works, then you can, you know.
You can optimize its performance.
Get better gas mileage. You can do all those things.
And so it is with the cosmic habit force.
Yeah. So just by being aware of it.
Yes.
We're already a step ahead.
We're already a step ahead.
You know?
And we can start to be more intentional about our choices, about our actions.
Yeah. I think that's a really great takeaway.
Yeah.
You know, from all this.
And I think it's a really empowering message.
It is.
Because it means that we're not just victims of circumstance. We're not just, you know, puppets of our habits.
We have the power to change.
We have the power to change.
Yeah.
And to create the life that we want.
So if you're not happy with your life.
Right.
If you're not happy with the way things are going.
Yeah.
Take a look at your habits.
Yeah.
And start to make some changes.
Because that's where the real power lies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Into cosmic habit force.
It has.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I hope so too.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.